Hi guys, today we're going to be looking at some physics multiple choice questions. Question 1.1. Which of the following compounds has the highest vapor pressure? So, as we know, highest vapor pressure means it has the lowest boiling point as they're inversely proportional. And the lowest boiling point means it has the weakest intermolecular forces. As we can see in A, B, and C, there's hydrogen bonding due to the O atom, the oxygen atom. Therefore, D, since it has no hydrogen bonding, would be the one with the lowest the weakest intermolecular forces, making it having the lowest boiling point and the highest vapor pressure. So our answer will be D. Question 1.2. Which one of the formulae below represent the product of a polymerization reaction? So a polymerization reaction is when we have an alkane, and it usually has the brackets like this and the N. Therefore, we know that this one is our answer. Question 1.3. Which one of the following combinations are both unsaturated hydrocarbons? So, ethane and ethene. So we know ethane is a saturated hydrocarbon as it only has single bonds, so it can't be A. It can't be C because it has ethanol, and it can't be D because it has ethanoic acid, and those contain molecules that are not just H and C, so our answer has to be B. Question 1.4. Which one of the following sets of values for activation energy and heat of reaction is possible for a reaction? So, as we know, activation energy is the minimum energy needed by the particles in order for the reaction to take place. Therefore, the higher the activation energy, usually the lower the heat of reaction, as there are less particles that are able to have enough energy to pass the activation energy, making the heat of the reaction a lot lower. Therefore, our answer would be D. Question 1.5. Consider the following balanced equation for a system at equilibrium, this being our equation. How will the addition of a catalyst to the equilibrium mixture affect the yield and reaction rate? So we know when a catalyst is added to a reaction, it doesn't change the amount of product formed or the amount of reactant formed, depending on which way the reaction is going. The only thing that changes is the rate of the reaction, which is increased due to a catalyst. Therefore, our answer would be C. Question 1.6. A hypothetical reaction reaches equilibrium at a certain temperature in a closed container, according to the following balanced equation. Which one of the following changes to the equilibrium conditions will result in an increase in the equilibrium constant Kc? So, we can see that our reaction here has a negative heat of reaction. Due to our negative delta H value, we know that the reaction is exothermic. So, when the reaction is exothermic, if we decrease the temperature, it will favor the forward reaction. Whereas if we increase the temperature, it will favor the reverse reaction. And if we want an increase in the equilibrium constant, we want the products to be higher than the reactants in order to increase the Kc value. Therefore, we want to decrease the temperature. So B is our answer. Question 1.7. A hydrochloric acid solution, HCl, and an acetic acid solution, CH3COOH, of equal concentrations are compared. How do the H3O plus concentration of HCl and the pH of HCl compare to that of CH3COOH? So HCl, as we know, is an acid, whereas CH3COOH is a base. It is not a base, that is my bad. It is still an acid, but it is a weak acid, whereas HCl is a strong acid. Therefore, strong acids have a higher concentration of H3O plus ions. So we would say that HCl has higher than the acetic acid. For the pH, HCl is a stronger acid than acetic acid. Therefore, when it is more acidic, it has a lower pH. Therefore, it will have a lower pH than acetic acid. So our answer would be B. Question 1.8. Two hypothetical half reactions and their respective reduction potentials are shown below. A galvanic cell is set up using the above substances. Which one of the following statements is correct for this galvanic cell? So, as we can see, B has a negative reduction potential and of negative 1.5 volts, and A has a positive reduction potential of 2.5 volts. Therefore, we can see that B has a lower reduction potential, causing it to have a higher chance of being oxidized. And when a substance is oxidized, we call it the reducing agent. Therefore, our answer is A, as B is the reducing agent. Question 1.9. In an electrolytic cell, anode is the positive electrode, oxidation takes place at the cathode, electrons flow from cathode to anode, or the mass of the anode increases. So, as we know, it's not B, because oxidation takes place at the anode, not the cathode. Electrons don't flow from the cathode to the anode, they flow in the opposite direction, from the anode to the cathode, as reduction happens at the cathode, and reduction is the gain of electrons. And since reduction happens at the cathode, the mass of the cathode will increase, not the anode. So our answer, therefore, has to be A, that the anode is the positive electrode. Question 1.10. Which of the following is used as a catalyst in the Ostwald process? So a catalyst is a substance that doesn't react in the solution or is not used up. It just speeds up the reaction process. And out of the 4 substances listed, the substance that's least likely to react in the reaction and not be used up is platinum. Therefore, our answer is platinum, which is C. And that's all for this video. Thank you.